So it was about 3 years ago that you and I first had a chat here on my YouTube channel. And so much has changed since then. I think one of the biggest things to happen in that 3 years is this thing right here, your book. And I ordered many copies. And I've been sharing them with all of the women in business out here in Australia, particularly on the Gold Coast. So I just wanted to have a chat to you today about the book and and help other people on the journey of personal branding.
Well, first of all, you are my sister from another mister down under in Australia. Like, you and I look alike. We have the same affinity for the color yellow. We're in the same industry. We have the same spirit. And I just love connecting with you, Amanda. And like, thank you for your consistent support in the work that I'm doing in the world. And I see you, girl, like you're doing it too. And it's really a beautiful thing to connect worldwide. And thank you for bringing the message of my book to your community down under. And let's talk about it. Let's talk about all the things.
Yeah, awesome. So I think just to jump in, first of all, I know a lot of people want to write a book and they see it obviously as a tool of being able to elevate themselves and their personal brand and their status. But I guess what people don't understand is how much effort goes into the book. And I mean, I've listened to your podcast and I've definitely followed your journey with this. So I know how hard you've worked for this. But if you can just summarize sort of like, what has been involved in bringing Bee to life.
There's, a couple of different routes you can take when you get to put a book out into the world. You can self-publish, which a lot of people do, or you can go the traditional route of getting a book deal. And I decided to do that. I was very clear. I wanted the legitimacy of like a house behind me. And knowing that that's a much longer journey than self-publishing. A lot of people will ideally self-publish for two main reasons. One, they own the rights and they own all the upside and profit of the entire book sale, as well as timeline. It's a shorter timeline. You can kind of make your own timeline. Whereas when you go down the publishing route, you're much more adhered to theirs. And so for me, it was a 3-year, like end to end, like a 3-year journey. Another thing to note about getting a traditional book deal with a publisher is that the way that you do that for nonfiction is writing a book proposal first, which is basically like a business plan for your book. And that document was, for me, 112 pages. It was the hardest part, and it took me 1.5 years because you're basically not only writing like the business plan for your book, which is like your target market, your competitive landscape, your marketing plan, but you're also building the infrastructure of your book. It was so challenging. I'd never written a book before. It was like beginning, middle, end, like how do the chapters flow? How do I tell one cohesive story? Anyway, so once you're done with the book proposal, which if you really want a book deal and you really want it, it's worth doing. It's the only way you can. And so pouring a lot of energy and resources into your book proposal is key. And so I did that, pitched it in April of 2019. And I got 4 agents interested within like a week, and my top choice was one of them. And so I signed with her. She pitched me to 37 publishers, and I got 4 yeses. Like 33 said no, which is okay. You only need 1 yes. And I got 4 offers, and my book went to auction, which is cool. It's like a cool feeling, like people like fight over your book, wanting to sign your book. And then I ended up going with my top choice, actually, which was Sounds True, Macmillan. They do like Eckhart Tolle and Marianne Williamson and Brene Brown, like they're like spirituality meets business. And so then I got the book deal, and it was 1.5 years until my book came out. So I spent about the first 6 months writing the first draft, then the second 6 months editing that draft in multiple rounds, and then the final 6 months pre-launch to launch to like, now it's here. So, I mean, it is a journey. And, I will say that it is by far and away one of the best accomplishments of my life. And it was worth every minute. And, I think what you mentioned is really interesting, because like we write books to increase our legitimacy and to open up doors and to grow our businesses. And like, that is 100%, that was 100% an objective. of why I wanted a book deal. But then when I got to the actual writing of this book, every word of it was for the reader. Like I wrote it from my heart, and I wrote it to change people's lives. And then how it impacted, my career was kind of like a nice net effect if I was impacting the lives of people. And I think that you really, as an author, need to come from that place. And that was like the biggest gift, was like, wow, people are reading this book and they're resonating with it and they're changing the way they think of themselves. And that is the whole point.
Yeah, it's incredible. And it's not just that you've written a book, but you've also had so much success with your agency and scaling your agency at what seems like a rapid pace. The podcast as well, wildly successful podcast. So you're scaling an agency, you're running a podcast, you're writing a book, you're probably not sleeping or having any days off to get there. But it truly does show that if you put in the work, and if you do it for the right reasons, as you say too, from your heart, you've always been there to serve others and put them on their platform as well. It's what drives you, like how do you manage multiple, all of these responsibilities?
Well, I have a big team of people now to help me. So my staff I'm up to 17 full-time people. And I have a leadership team of a head of agency. So someone who's helping me like run the agency, a CMO / COO. She plays kind of both roles, a CFO, and then there's me, the CEO. So we have like a 4-person executive team now. And then I have a leadership team of 3 directors that oversee like the junior level staff. And so honestly, like the bigger my business has grown, the more I realize what I'm not good at. And I've really like had to put myself in my own right seat and really trust and delegate as much as I can. I mean, I'm a control freak, and I think anybody who scales their business can admit like how hard it is to like let go over time of like your baby and like let other people like really empower people. But that's how you scale.
Yeah.
And so I would say that the way that I've been able to not go crazy is to have a real support system, because it is really hard. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is really hard. Like every single day is not what it looks like on Instagram, Amanda. Like there's a lot of stress and there's a lot of fires and bombs that kind of get dropped on you. And like, when it's your company and your brand name and your reputation, like it's very emotional.
Yeah.
And so there's highs and lows and pros and cons. But
it's really interesting, because I have a lot of people say to me, and I'm sure people are the same with you, they're like, you're always so positive, everything seems to always be going so great for you, always working so hard, you have so much energy, I wish I had your energy. And I guess it's because they aren't seeing the stress, and they're not seeing us on our down days when we're locked in our houses with our dogs and our husbands, and we're like we're just absorbing all of that for ourselves. And I think being a light worker and not wanting to project stress and downtimes and stuff out into the community, we probably tend to avoid that a bit, but it does kind of then add to the, the unrealistic sort of, presence of everything being, rainbows and lollipops, I guess. Do you find that? Do you find that you get that sort of feedback, or do you find that because you do tend to open up more about the emotional side of it, it's more balanced for you?
Oh, I feel that on a soul level, girl. Like when you're a light worker, right? The operative word in light worker is work. Like it's, I feel a deep and profound responsibility to show up for my community in my highest vibration, and to not be positive for the sake of being positive, but to be a beacon of positivity for people, to really give people like information, right, from like the like living library of the cosmos. Like I have access to that, and so I feel very much called to show up in a certain way, not because I feel like it's fake or I'm like, but because I have to. And so it has been a hard few months. I mean, I'm going to steal that one. Like 2021 is like the hangover from 2020. Like I almost feel like this year has been harder than 2020. And I posted a podcast a couple of weeks ago about cool girls, mean girls, and the misfits. I don't know if you heard it, but I had someone that I don't know, like that follows me, but like don't know, DM me and was like, mental health check, Jessica, are you okay? And I was like, I just felt like that was like, first of all, like so kind of inappropriate. And secondly, and I'm sure her intentions were good, but it was like, wow, people really expect me to always be positive and to like not have these dark feelings. And so I'm in that dance as we speak because I want to be authentic. I don't want to not like, I'm at the point now where like, if I'm going through shitty shit, I don't post because I'm just silent because I'm dealing with my stuff and I have nothing to say. But then at the same time, I've thought to myself, well, maybe my audience would find this valuable to know that I'm going through this and that they're not alone, or like, I'm not perfect and I don't have this like constant, access to the truth of light. Sometimes I'm just in my shadow. And so I'm really in that, like, that's real time stuff for me right now. Like these last few months since launching my book, I've been kind of like a postpartum. And if you launch a book, and if anyone listening launches a book, that's very normal from what I've been told. Like it's called the post-launch blues that like all authors go through. And I was like, yeah, I'll probably feel that right away. Like when it's over for a couple like days or weeks. No, it's been like months.
Yeah.
And I'm like really just trying to navigate how to show up, in it. It's hard.
Is that because like that was such a huge accomplishment and a massive goal, and then you've kind of come off the back of that and it's kind of like, what's next? Like you feel like you've come over the mountain?
All of the above. Exactly. Like people see your book launch as like the launch date, but what most people don't see is I just talked about it, like the 3 years leading up to it. It's like you're gestating a baby, like typical gestation is 9 months. Like this is 3 years, and then you birth it. And this is what I'll explain about being an author and going through a launch that I'm now coming to terms with. So it is a euphoria when you launch your book. It is like the biggest high. Everybody is talking about you. Everyone is sharing you. Everyone is supporting you. That's one thing. The second thing is the vulnerability of the launch itself that you must adopt as an author to open yourself up and ask the whole world, at least your whole world, to show up for you. Like people I barely freaking know, all the way to people I've known really well for years, saying, can you support me? And some people saying, no, sorry, don't have time. Like you're just so raw. You're so raw. And you're so open with this big like birthing that when you come back down to earth, when the launch is over, one, no one's really talking about you anymore. You're not in the light. It's like over, feels that way. And the second thing is you are just as open. You're just now back on earth. And so the capacity to feel, and that means like the capacity to feel like sadness as much as you can joy, is like you've just expanded yourself. I don't know if this makes sense, but
yeah,
by the time you kind of come to your reality, it's like everything feels like what would feel like a prick feels like a dagger because you're just so open. Does this make sense?
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's interesting that you mentioned support, because one thing that I've always admired about you is the tribe that you command, the tribe that supports you. And I remember seeing one of your recent master classes that you did. You had like over 1,000 people on your Zoom masterclass. And I was like, holy crap, that's like 1,000 people. Like, 10 is great. Like 100 is freaking awesome. But like 1,000, I thought like, what is it? Like you're the master at it. That's why I look up to you so much. But how the hell do you like to get 1,000 loyal fans supporting your work like that?
It goes back to what I talk about in my book. You got to be consistent, like I've been doing this a long time, and you've got to be clear in like the value you bring, right? That's strategic, that's brand message.
Yeah.
You have to be, I believe, I don't know, like I mean it when I say I care about my community. Like I mean it. Like I love my people and I want to help them and I want to serve them. And so when you vibrate at this frequency of like service, I don't know, I think people can just feel that. And, you know, so there's the energetic sort of side to it. That's qualitative. And then there's a quantitative side of like, you got to bang people over the head. Like I promoted the fuck out of that masterclass. Like, I mean, it was everywhere for weeks. And like, you know, you got to be kind of unapologetic, like promote yourself. Like that doesn't make you vain or shallow. That makes you a business owner. Like you got to promote yourself consistently, constantly, and clearly, and it compounds.
I have to say the Americans have got it down pat with the whole like no sort of shame in the self-promotion. In Australia, we have a huge issue with tall poppy syndrome. And we talked about this 3 years ago when I said a lot of people were worried about personal branding coming off as ego-centric instead of service-based. And, you know, people think that if they're saying the same thing over and over again, or they're sharing the same message across multiple platforms, then potentially it's too much. But what I always say to them is like, your message might be being seen for someone by the first time. Like you literally nearly need to wave something in front of someone 10 times for them to even register that it's there.
Yep, exactly. I mean, that is called, so marketing is art, science, and psychology. And you just have to like, remember that. Like I heard Gary Vaynerchuk say, you know who he is, right?
Yeah.
And his podcast is really interesting. And before COVID, it was like always like Q&A. Like he would just, you know, he'd do a keynote, and instead of a keynote, he would just like open up the floor and pass the mic around and anyone could ask him anything. And he got a question one time where this guy like basically called him out and was like, Gary, you say the same shit every time you, like wherever you go, like what, you know? And he was like, exactly. I'm going to say the same exact thing over and over and over again, because there's going to be 1, new people in the audience. 2, someone's not going to hear it right the first time. 3, someone might not be listening on a podcast, but they might be listening on a video or reading my blog or following my Twitter account. Like he was like, you have to really meet people all the time with a consistent brand narrative. And that's how you become known as the thing that you want to be known as, so that when you host a masterclass, 1,000 people sign up for it because they're like, oh yeah, she's the girl that teaches that. I want to be part of that. I've been getting those jabs from her, whether consciously or subconsciously, for, you know, the last however many months or years. And people really want overnight success. You know, in transparency, I have a client that's really mad right now at me and my company because she hasn't seen ROI after 2 months. And I'm like, I've been at this for 12 years. like you don't see results. It's a compound effect. So I think that we all have to just kind of give ourselves a bit of a break and try not to compare ourselves to anyone, and just stay the course.
Yeah, that's really interesting to say that, because I say to my clients, you know, wait at least 6 months until you feel that momentum. Like you will feel it start to kick in at 6 months from being consistent. And I've got a client that's been with me for almost 2 years. And now it's like beating off opportunities with a stick. Like so much stuff is coming in. It used to be like every month we had like an opportunity, like for a pinnacle content type opportunity. Now it's like every week. And it's just getting, you know, it's that compound effect. It's crazy, but it's like, you've got to trust in the long game. And that's my biggest theme for this year has been like, we're here for the long game. Like, don't work with me if you want like a quick win, because the work that both of us do, Jess, is about, you know, it's going to live longer than we're dead. You know, like this is legacy stuff, like personal branding is legacy versus, you know, and I say like, we will outlive any Google ad metric, Facebook ad metric. And I guess both of us, in a lot of respects, we're guinea pigs. We tend to put ourselves through our tactics before we put any of our clients through them as well. And it's of course worked brilliantly for you, and I'm sure many of your clients.
Yeah, I mean, I have built a whole business based on that premise. And, you know, I think that, speaking of pinnacle content, you know, a lot of people, I have a rather cheeky quote from my book, and I think it's quite cheeky. Maybe it's not, but it's this quote that states, thought leaders think, that's why they're called thought leaders. And you have to apply yourself. You have to create things beyond your Instagram account. Okay. Like that is intellectual property that belongs to you, that comes from your own creative mind. And that can come to life through a lot of different forms of content and experiences and value. And when you start there, when you really look at it like that, when you're like, okay, my webinar series is my thought leadership, my workshops are my thought leadership, my speaking on stage is my thought leadership, my book is thought leadership, my conference is thought leadership, my blog is thought leadership, then you are utilizing these tools of content to elevate the perception of your expertise, and you utilize social media to drip it out. So people will come to my agency and they're like, let's grow my Instagram account. I want 1 million followers. And I'm like, why? One, two, we're not going to start there. You know, we start at the top, we zoom up. We're like, what's the message? What's the strategy? Who are we talking to? Why? What are the goals? What does your ROI look like? Okay, well then based on that, we construct a strategy that includes core content to position you as that expert, to have that value in the market. And then we disseminate it across social media and PR to raise awareness and to build community around it. And people are like, oh, like we've kind of taken a reverse engineered approach to it. You follow a strategy, you invest the time, forget the money. Like money's a definite investment, but I mean, you could probably speak to this too, Amanda. Like, we spend hours and hours every week, like on our platforms. Like, that's what it takes. Like, my podcast is like 10 hours of my week, you know, every week. Yeah. And a lot of people will start a podcast and then they quit because they're like, holy shit, this is a lot of investment. And so you just kind of have to really ask yourself, in a way, how badly do you want it? I think, and stay the course.
I really resonated with the story in your book where you talked about the client who just wanted you to just make them a thought leader without him having any input into thoughts. And I had a bit of a giggle because I thought, you know, that's what everyone wants. That was this like done for you service. Like you just build them without them having any input. And I really resonated because like I've tried so hard to do that myself, where I'm like, I could just do all the work. It'll be like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtains.
Totally.
It doesn't work. It just burns you out. And that's where you have to become obviously way more strategic in like, do I want to work with this person? Like, is this the sort of person who I want to help build up as a thought leader? Because I truly believe that what they have inside them needs to be shared with the world. And since my mindset changed around that, I work with some of the most incredible like entrepreneurs here in Australia. And, you know, that's my mission now, is to create the next generation of thought leaders for younger people, like younger people considering, you know, professional careers or careers or, you know, business opportunities in the future, to have relatable people, like authentic, relatable people. So that's why it's so important to share the type of work that we do, and obviously your book, and I want everyone to get it, of course. That's why I ordered so many copies of it and I've been handing it out down here. We really need to get you in Australian bookstores.
I'm here for it. Let me go, like, sign me up. I'm so excited to travel again. Oh,
yeah. Well, I'm going to hold you to coming and seeing us and doing an Australian tour with me as soon as we can, you know, as soon as we can open those borders up. I'm so glad I met you in Bali though, all those years ago.
Amazing.
You know, it's the travel that we've done up until now. Like, I know you're the same. We both love travel. So blessed to have had those experiences before everything kind of locked up on us.
I am too. And I just want to thank you for being like such a supporter of my work. And I want you to know I'm such a supporter of you. I think you're just such a light and really have such a brilliant mind and like a true heart. And and that's rare. And you're also just beautiful inside and out. And I can see why we've connected. Like we really are like very much like-minded. And thank you for being so like patient with me and getting this on the books. Like it's been a crazy, crazy time. And yeah. I like adore you, Amanda, and you have become like one of my most special, you speak of my community, like community members. And I really, really like, I'm serious. Let's manifest an Australian tour, and I will come down there and we will make it magic, and we will like bring all this good light to all the women in Australia. Like that would be a dream, truly.
Yeah,
so
I'll start building your 1,000 person fan base here. Ready to go.
I love it. I love it.
Awesome. Well, I know you only had half an hour today, so I'll let you go because, well, it's your nighttime. It's my morning. I'm just starting the day. You're finishing the day. I love that as well. We just, we can operate 24/7 between the two of you, two of us.
Yes, we can. We can take over the world.
Yeah,
The
we can
whole world.
be sharing the light and building up the personal brands 24/7 worldwide.
Totally.
Awesome. Well, yeah, absolutely loved chatting with you today, and you take care. And yeah, I'll check in on with you from time to time, because that's one thing that I've noticed is like a lot of these people like us that are out there looking so positive and strong all the time. They're the ones you've got to check in on, like check in on your strong friends, like always.
Truly.
And I look forward to checking out your new office when you're ready to.
Yeah, we're like putting all the decorative elements in it. So as soon as we're done with that, it's like a whole new world. So
I'm so glad you're doing this now, because that's my next, I'm looking at a new office space in the next couple of months myself. So I'll wait to see what you do with yours first, because I'm sure I'm going to be inspired.
yes, of course. You must.
Awesome.
You must.
All right,
All
Jazz.
right, sister. Have a beautiful rest of your night or day, and I will see you soon.
Okay, bye.